these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am
I am
tired,
tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Expected tens of thousands. How exciting it was to see hundreds of thousands of people turn out in New York City to demand action on climate change from the world's leaders meeting in New York to discuss climate change and to consider taking action. And all these people came together from all over the world to say, we demand action. It's the most serious threat facing our planet, and you've got to stop talking about it and do something about it. That's the kind of partnership that is needed to get some action on climate change. And watching those huge crowds, I'm just sorry I wasn't there myself, and I was thinking that's the kind of partnership that we have every day right here on Free Speech TV, because this is a real partnership. You know, we, Stephanie and Tom and Amy and I and all the rest, we bring you the news of the day. We bring you up to date on all the issues that you really care about. And then we open up and give you a chance to tell us what it all means to you. That is a real partnership. And we're a partnership, of course, in another way, too. that your generous support is what keeps us on the air doing our job, what enables us to get together every day. I mean, Free Speech TV is unlike any other cable TV channel. You know that. Free Speech TV is free and independent and fearless. We can be that for one reason only, because we have no corporate funding, no government funding. We depend on you and your generosity to keep us on the air, and you've been so good to us so far. Well, now it's that time again to ask you to dig in again and to keep us going, keep this partnership alive and strong. We ask you again for your support in any way you can, as generous as you can, and of course, to maybe give you a little incentive to do so, we offer you some special gifts. Very excited about the gifts for this pledge drive. For $120 a year, or just $10 a month, we'll send you a Bill Press Show mug and a pound of coffee, special coffee. For $240 a year, or $20 a month, you get the mug and a pound of coffee and a French press to go with it. There's a whole bag of tricks that you need. Get that morning cup of coffee. We'll even make it better. For $360 a year, or $30 a month. Very, very special. You get the mug and the coffee and the French press. And then you'll be invited to have a 5-minute telephone conversation with me on any issue or issues you want to talk about. We will blend them all together like a good cup of coffee and play that collection of phone calls on the air as part of our Voices of the People project. And if you can help us with $1,000, you get yourselves to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner, bring you into the studio, and we'll have a great time together. Give us a call today at 1-877-378-8669 and make your pledge, or go to freespeech.org. Again, please be as generous as you can, and thank you for keeping our partnership alive and strong.
You know, sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I'm not necessarily looking out and seeing all these water-wasting lawns and people that aren't as connected to their neighbors and their lives as they could be. I'm walking down the street looking, going, edible oases, rainwater, fed landscape, and just looking at the possibility of these sort of landscapes up and down the streets of neighborhoods and communities all across this world. Small actions do ripple, and they add up and they have a cumulative impact. And so when you're building upon your small mindful actions, you know, you have the confidence and the ability to take on something a little bit greater. So that could be nice. This, in the context of where we're at as a planet with climate change and these really big issues, and people that are more disconnected and less skilled than ever, it becomes even more amazing and powerful how much of a solution this is to design these ecological gardens and to come together with shared vision and shared voice. There's never been a time where your choices have mattered more. Doing something as simple as us transforming a landscape creates a model that anybody could look at far and wide, and you're sharing food and connecting and building skills together in your own neighborhood. It's a richer way to live in normal times, but in the new normal of climate change and erratic weather and economic upheaval, it becomes essential. Whether it's me, you, Gandhi, Che, MLK, Willy Wonka, whoever, past, present, or future, the power of our daily actions is all that we have. You know, and like our community said, give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I'll move the world. And that's what those simple actions do. They move the world every day.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
hundreds of thousands of people in New York saying, around the world, saying, let's finally do something about climate change. Hey, hello, everybody. How great to see that message. How great to see that outpouring of support over the weekend for the most serious threat facing this planet. Hopefully it's enough to shake our world leaders into some action. So good to see you today. It is a Monday, September 22nd. This is the Bill Press Show. We are coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, where there's not anything going on about climate change either. Even though we have a president who wants to do something about it, Congress just doesn't care. We'll bring you up to date on all the news of the day, such as it is from Washington, D.C. Tell you what's going on here, around the country, and around the globe. You tell us what it all means to you. So good to see you today. Hope you had a good weekend, relaxing weekend. Watched a lot of still baseball and some football as well, although a lot of us just boycotted the NFL. I got a friend yesterday texting me saying, "Are you watching the football game?" I said, "Hell no."
Yeah, I didn't watch any of it.
I didn't care what game it was. I certainly wasn't going to watch the Washington team, whose name we can't even pronounce. But anyway, I hope your weekend was a good one and you're ready to dive into the news of the day today. We got lots and lots to talk about. But that big climate change rally, among other things, and this frightening breach of security at the White House Friday afternoon. Just a couple of things on our plate today. You know how to reach us at 866-55-PRESS. We are there with you on your local Progressive Talk radio station. Of course, your morning progressive radio show all around the country. We're also there with you on Free Speech TV, for those of you who prefer to watch, not just listen to your news of the morning. On Free Speech TV, you have a satellite dish. You find us on DirecTV and the Dish Network. And worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Also there with you on those two great radio apps, iHeartRadio, which will link you right to one of our great affiliates, or TuneIn, the TuneIn app on the Progressive Voices channel. We are there with you as well. You can't escape us. In other words, we're coming to you every way we can. Good to see you and good to have you with us this morning, with the entire team back together again for one of those rare moments before we all have our different ways of practicing now the 4-day work week.
Yeah.
So now we're all taking Friday off.
Yeah, we can't all take a 4-day work week at the same time, so we sort of have a little rotation going.
Well, I'll give you my experience. Don't take your one day in the middle of the week like I did. That's no fun. And I didn't want to take it. I didn't choose to take that day off. Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy. Hello, guys.
Happy Monday.
Yes, Alicia Cruz here on the phones, and Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, of course. It's good to have everybody together today. And you know, they keep coming up with new ways that you can eat all your favorite foods and not get fat and not get extra calories, right? As Conan O'Brien said last night, even pizza.
Pizza Hut is testing out a new lower-calorie pizza.
How about that?
Yeah. To which the average American said, "Great, now I can eat 5." So we do.
People say, yeah, they lower the calories, so I'll just have more of the same.
Yeah,
more of them. Yeah, why not?
That's how we do.
It's a little too true.
It's
a little close.
Yeah, it does indeed. Coming up today, very excited. Terry O'Neill, who's been one of the real leaders on the criticism, all correct, of the way the NFL has handled the Ray Rice and other situations lately. Terry O'Neill, the head of the National Organization for Women, will be here in studio with us a little bit later in the program. Alex Bolton from The Hill will be here as a friend of Bill in the next hour. And we'll also have one of the leaders of that climate change protest yesterday in studio with us as well. Lots coming up. But first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Bill, would you drive a 3D printed car?
No.
No. All right. That is your answer. You're on the record. Well, Local Motors, a company based in Phoenix, they are a 3D printing company, and they built a car that is fully operational, drivable, and they say is safer than metal cars.
It can't be. I mean, it can't be. No, I saw that story, and I just said, BS.
They say it took 44 hours to make. It's lighter than the average car, and they're saying that because metal is, becomes a real danger when you get in an accident, that this type of plastic isn't such a danger. I'm just putting that out there. I'm not saying I disagree with you.
All right, maybe if you get hit by another plastic car.
Yes, exactly.
If you get hit by a metal car and you're in a plastic car,
You lose.
Yeah, you're in
lose,
trouble.
right.
You're in trouble. Just in time for breakfast. Starbucks is testing a new item in some cities called the Dark Barrel Latte.
Ooh.
It is said to taste just like a Guinness beer, but it's non-alcoholic, so what's the point? As far as beer goes, Guinness is probably the best breakfast beer that you can have, but still, why would you want to have a coffee that tastes like a Guinness without the alcohol? Reaction has been mixed so far on Twitter. People are tweeting about it and saying that they're having it. But they're saying that it's topped with cream, has a dark caramel sauce, and a flavored syrup that tastes like a dark beer.
they're wasting their money on me. I'll just take my iced tea, thank you.
Iced tea. An iced tea that tasted like Guinness.
No.
Just regular iced tea. You got it. And True Detective Season 2 is becoming a reality over the weekend. Actor Colin Farrell confirmed that he is starring in the second season of HBO's detective thriller. We don't know much about what the series is going to look like because it changes storylines, characters, for just one season at a time. They did say, the creator said that they were looking to have 4 leads in the second season. So Colin Farrell, again, saying that he is going to be one of them. So we should be finding out more very soon.
This TV season starting to shape up. And more news coming out about it. Yes, indeed. All righty. Thank you, Peter. The stunning news Friday about the break-in at the White House has everybody talking, especially those of us who go to the White House every day. I mean, this to me is just absolutely unbelievable. And love your take on what happened and what you think ought to be done about it. Okay, I mean, just catching you up. And I wasn't there Friday, by the way, at that hour Friday. It was about 7 o'clock Friday evening. Things had kind of quieted down. There's always a big crowd in front of the street on Pennsylvania Avenue in front of the White House, and always, I mean, hundreds of people having their picture taken. That's the whole scene. It's like a street fair, lining up, get their pictures taken in front of the White House fence. When suddenly, one guy, a homeless guy, Iraq war vet, climbs the fence, gets over the fence. Okay, now from the fence to the front door of the White House is about 100 yards. This guy takes off in a sprint. There's a fountain right in the middle. Okay, so you got a picture there. So there's a White House fence, and there's the lawn. In the middle of the lawn's a fountain. So he starts running for the front door. He circles to the left of the fountain, comes back, and he heads right to the front door. And he gets to the front door of the White House, where all the important guests are received by the President, the First Lady, gets inside the White House before he is finally tackled by the Secret Service. Fortunately, the guy was unarmed. Fortunately, he had no explosive with him at all. But it is just unbelievable to me that guy could get that far without, one, getting tackled by several people, because and let me tell you, I'm there every day. There are dozens of Secret Service officers around, outside the gate, inside the fence. There are snipers on the roof.
He did have a knife, by the way.
Yeah, he had a knife in his pocket.
Yeah.
When I say unarmed, he clearly didn't have a gun,
right.
Didn't have a backpack. Right. They found the knife after they arrested him and searched him, so, yeah, he had a weapon. He was unarmed, but he was an armed man. I should have said that. But at any rate, there are snipers on the roof again. There are agents inside and outside the fence. And there are dogs. They've got these Belgian, I forget what they call them, these attack dogs.
Malinois.
Who are muzzled. But there are several of them And they're there for that reason. They're there to stop somebody who is running toward the White House. So this guy takes off. The Secret Service, they chased him. They didn't catch him. Not that many were actually running after. When you see it, you don't see that many people. Like, they're not right on his tail, right?
Right.
They didn't bring him down. They didn't tackle him. They didn't catch him. They let him. They didn't shoot him. I don't think I'm not saying they should have shot him. There are other ways to get him. They didn't release the dogs. They didn't lock the freaking door of the White House. Okay, by the way, as soon as somebody gets up to the top of the White House, there's an alarm system goes off. Bam, bam.
When someone jumps the fence.
Jumps the fence.
Okay.
I'm sorry, not the top of the White House. Jumps top of the fence.
Okay.
Gets over the fence. There's an electronic alarm system goes off all over the place.
You've been there when that happened.
Yes.
Okay.
And it tells the Secret Service where the fence was penetrated, that it was, and where. So they know exactly where to go, where to look, where to converge, okay? So the alarm went off, right? Again, they didn't, and right away, inside the White House, they know that somebody has gone over the fence and is heading to the White House. They left the door unlocked. And not only that, the officers didn't, when I go in that door, we go in that door when we go to the East Room of the White House, or any events in the White House, as members of the press corps when the president's. There's always officers like they're on the portico. They're outside the door. They're not inside. They're outside. So why didn't this? If they know somebody's running to the White House, why didn't the Secret Service guys? First of all, why didn't they get him? Why didn't they release the dogs? Of course. Why didn't they step outside on the porch, knowing he was heading for the front door? And then why didn't they lock the freaking door? They let him get inside the White House before they tackled him. It's just absolutely inexcusable. The Secret Service did not do their job. And I have to tell you, again, I'm there every day. I know that place. I know the people. I know the Secret Service. And by the way, Secret Service are great, great people. But here, somebody in charge was asleep at the switch. And so when I walk in through the Northwest Gate, I get three choices. Right? There is the driveway that goes off to the left, which is a circular driveway that circles right up to that front door. Mm-hmm. There is a sidewalk alongside that driveway that circles around to the left and goes right to that front door of the White House. Then there's a driveway that goes right straight ahead that goes to the west wing where the briefing room is. And I walk out of that guard shack and I walk down that driveway right to the west wing, turn left. I don't go into the office part of the West Wing, turn left, go into the briefing room. I know if I went, and they know me, if I went anywhere else, I wouldn't get 10 feet before I'd be stopped. If I took that little sidewalk to the left, having gone through security, knowing me, if I took the little sidewalk to the left, they'd be out there in a second saying, where the hell are you going?
Yeah, right.
Right? Get out of there. If I took that driveway, they'd come after me. This guy climbs the freaking fence. First, I didn't even know how you could get all the way to the top of the fence and get over before they'd get you, right?
Right.
Because there's so many officers around. It's just, it's an totally inexplicable and inexcusable breach of security. And I think it raises some serious questions. I mean, to get inside, to penetrate inside the White House.
You got to think. I mean, it's something that
unbelievable.
Like I tell my kids when I go by the White House, right? Like, this is the most secure place.
Yeah,
and I said, look at the top there. You see at the top of the White House, and you see a couple of, heads and people roaming around up there because it's so secure. You would think, and the story goes, you jump over the fence, you're in deep trouble. Yeah, right. One way or the other, whether it be someone grabs you, a dog gets you, a sniper gets you.
And it looks beautiful, and it looks calm, and it looks like everything is just really, really pretty. But everybody knows, the word is, man, if you, but the security is so dense that you even try, right? Nothing could happen. Well, this blows that theory all to hell.
It's amazing.
Blows that theory all to hell. And now, what they're talking about, which I think is a huge mistake, is they're saying now they're going to set up some security posts on the perimeter. So a block or more away, if you're heading even in the direction of the White House, they're going to stop you on the street, search your bags and everything. That's not the answer. That's not the answer. That just makes us more of a police state. There's plenty of police presence at the White House already. Right. It's not that there was no police presence there. The Secret Service officers on duty that day did not do their job. and they ought to be held responsible, and there are some heads ought to roll and put some people in there who...
Don't punish everybody else.
No. 2 weeks before, remember this guy went over with that silly mask on.
Yeah,
got over the fence. He got about 10 feet.
Yeah.
And then they had him down on the ground with a dog in his face and a gun on at his head.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How this one happened, don't know. Again, they just were asleep at the switch on this one. And they ought to have to pay for it.
They make it harder and harder for people who are not just people who live in D.C., but for people who come to D.C. I mean, people want to go and see our house.
Yeah.
Right? This is our house.
Yeah.
It's the White House.
No.
So they're going to try and make it harder. And they're going to try to
it.
keep people away.
No, don't make it any harder.
Just do the job.
Do your job. Right. I don't know. When I get down there today, maybe I'll just say, I'm going to stroll around a little bit. Yeah. Let's see how far I can get. 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about what do you think of this? What's the answer? Think this could ever happen? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, good morning, friends and neighbors. What do you say? Let's take a little time out here from this morning's show to talk about Free Speech TV. You know what they say? There's no such thing as a free lunch. Well, there's no such thing as free speech either. Well, in a sense there is. I mean, you don't have to pay for it every time you watch it. You don't have to drop a quarter like in the parking meter to keep it going. But it still costs a lot of money to run a cable television channel nationwide, especially if you want to be independent of all other forces. And, you know, the people who founded free speech, they had some choices. They could either fill up the airtime with paid commercials like they do on all the other networks. They said, no, we don't want to do that. They could turn to the government for help. No, we don't want to do that. That's another kind of dependency. Or we could just go out to the corporate world like the Koch brothers and get all kinds of money for that from Sheldon Adelson and Foster Friesen and the Koch brothers. No, we definitely want to do that. Founders of free speech decided they're going to count on our viewers to keep us going and to keep free speech on the air. That's the only way that we can be completely free and independent and fearless every day. Look, we know you appreciate Free Speech TV. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching. We know you love tuning in every day to Tom Hartman and Stephanie Miller, Amy Goodman, and me. I hope on the list as well. Now we need your help to keep it going, to keep this great channel going. And we'll make it a two-way street. You help us, we'll help you. So some incentives to help us during this pledge drive. Be as generous as you can, as you always are. And if you can help us with just $10 a month, $120, we'll send you a Bill Press Show mug and a pound of coffee. If you help us with $20 a month, $240 a year, send you the mug and a coffee and a French press for $360 or $30 a month. Very, very special. We'll send you the mug, the coffee, the French press, and then you get to participate in what we're calling Voices of the People. You and I will have a 5-minute telephone call, one-on-one call on any issues of the day. We're going to put all the recordings of all those calls together and play that on the air as Voices of the People from all of our good friends out in free speech land. And then if you can do something very special and help free speech, help all of us with $1,000. You make your way to Washington. Carol and I will take you out to dinner. We'll have a good time. You come in the next morning and watch the show here in studio with us. The way to join in, of course, is go to our phone number, 877-378-8669, or go to the website at freespeech.org. Again, you've been wonderful, wonderful to us. That's why we're here. So keep us going, and please be as generous as you can, and we thank you.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
is the Bill Press Show.
Here we are at 26 minutes after the hour now. On a Monday, September 22nd, talking about the big breach in security at the White House Friday afternoon. Big investigation underway, but already they're talking about making it more of a police state by adding more security checkpoints as much as a couple of blocks away from the White House, which is just crazy. Just do their job. They didn't do it Friday afternoon. Hey, Joey in Chicago. Joey, what do you say?
Good morning, everybody. Hey, now it's my birthday today, gentlemen.
Oh,
One day closer to death.
Happy 25th birthday.
Yeah.
Not 25, double it, baby. God bless you, Peter. God bless you. I think the security guards didn't want to run after him because they were waiting for that dog to take off. And when somebody's running and you let a dog loose, that dog's going to take down anybody who's running.
That's right.
I think that's why they didn't run.
But
there's no excuse for not locking the front door.
No.
That is just ridiculous.
That's also no excuse.
How could you not lock the front door?
Yeah, I can't. I mean, like, Joe, your house or my house, right? You get a call. They say somebody's running to your front door. What do? You lock the freaking door, right? Also, why
keep the door? Yeah, there's no excuse for that. They better get on top of this. Or you just bend the fence towards the street, the top of it, and you can't climb over it. You don't need 50 million people out there.
You're so right. Also, why didn't they release the dogs? There's no. I've not heard any explanation whatsoever for the decision made not to release the dogs. Again, I understand. Joey's right. If people are running, those dogs might go after a Secret Service agent. They can't tell one from the other. All right, so you let the dogs do their job. And probably the guys held back because they were sure that the dogs were going to be released. Whoever didn't release the dogs and whoever didn't lock the door, those are the two guys I'd be talking to.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Hey, friends and neighbors, take a little time out now for just a word about Free Speech TV, how important it is, and how much we depend on your help. You know, I hate to tell you this, but I've been around this radio and television business for a long time now, starting out with KABC TV in Los Angeles and KABC Talk Radio, moving on the radio front over to KFI Radio, on TV over to KCOP Radio, and then bouncing back here to Washington, D.C., 6 years on CNN at Crossfire, and then a couple of years at MSNBC with Pat Buchanan on Buchanan and Press, and then Current TV, of course, covering and carrying our nationally syndicated radio show on a simulcast. But I got to tell you, with all of those different great organizations I've worked for, I have never felt that so totally free and so totally independent in terms of broadcasting the news of the day as I do here on Free Speech TV, because Free Speech TV, that's what it is. I mean, it's a progressive voice channel, 24/7, totally independent. As you know, no government funding and no corporate funding and no big donor pressure at all. Totally independent. And how do we do it? Well, that's thanks to you and to your support. We couldn't do without it. And that's why we turn to you once or twice a year to ask you to first of all, to thank you for being so generous, and then to ask you to help out again as much as you can. And there's some premiums that we can offer this time around, maybe to make it more attractive for you to dig in and help us out. If you can help us with just $10 a month, $120 a year, we'll send you a Bill Press mug and a pound of coffee. For $240, that mug, that coffee, and a French press. That's just $20 a month. For $30 a month, $360 a year, a mug, a coffee, the French press, and you'll participate in what we're calling Voices of the People. You and I will have a 5-minute phone conversation about whatever issue you want to talk about or issues you want to talk about, and we'll put all those together and we'll air them on our show as Voices of the People. You can be part of that. And if somehow you can make your way to Washington, D.C. and send $1,000 to Free Speech TV, make your way to Washington, Carol and I will take you out to dinner and bring you into the studio the next morning to watch the show. However, whatever level you can help out, please give us a call at 877-378-8669 or go to the website freespeech.org. Help as much as you can, and thank you for being so generous and allowing us to do a great job with you every day.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune into Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
Hey, here we go at 34 minutes after the hour. Well, if people weren't talking about the big break-in at the White House on Friday, by the way, that nut case who went over the fence does seem to have some severe mental problems, is in court today, facing charges. You know, I often wondered what Joey said, which is so simple. You see, a lot of fences, you know, go up and then they curve out, right?
Yeah.
Right. You know, I mean, you see those at buildings all around the world. Why haven't they done that
at the White House, is it?
To the White House. No, it's not.
That's a really good question.
Yeah, and it wouldn't detract from the White House just
I
to have
don't think
you know, just make it a little more difficult to get over.
What do you think we would deal with more? A little curvature at the top of the fence, or another checkpoint 2 and 3 blocks away from the White House?
Yeah. Pretty soon, the way they're going on the Beltway. They'll stop you on the Beltway.
Right.
Yeah. You're within 10 miles of the White House. We got to check you out. Well, people weren't talking about the White House break-in security. They were talking about the NFL. Roger Goodell, notice, after all the talk, right, about Adrian Peterson and Ray Rice and Ray McDonald and on and on and on, the latest guy from the Cardinals, I forget his name, but Roger Goodell was silent. Yeah, didn't hear from him all last week. Didn't hear from him until Friday. And, of course, here we are, the Friday news dump. He calls a news conference on Friday, thinking that it'll escape a lot of attention. And you think, oh, well, Goodell is finally coming out with all the calls for him to resign and all the criticism of the NFL. Finally, he's going to have something to say. Now, Tell me if I'm wrong. I listened. I watched. I don't think he said anything. It was a great, big nothing burger, that news conference by Roger Goodell. I mean, he said, yeah, I made a mistake.
I made a mistake. Mm-hmm. I'm not satisfied with the process that we went through. I'm not satisfied with the conclusions.
Duh. Yeah. Big revelation. I made a mistake. Oh, I got it wrong about Ray Rice.
I got it wrong in the handling of the Ray Rice matter.
Duh.
And I'm sorry for that.
I mean, hello? I mean, he said that 2 weeks ago. Everybody knows he got it wrong.
All warmed over stuff. Waiting for something new.
Waiting for something new. No. And we heard nothing new. All he said was, well, they're going to do some training about NFL staff. But no, we're going to have we're going to have new standards someday about how we handle cases of domestic violence. Someday. No announcement or explanation of what those standards should be or would be. Nothing.
Which, by the way, is a good idea.
They should have some standards.
And they should have had that done already.
A long time ago.
And why hold a press conference just to let us know that you now finally realize that that's something you should have?
Right.
Talk to us when you've got the standards in place.
Right. And what about maybe you stepping down, Mr. Commissioner? Oh, I haven't thought about that at all because we've got a lot of work to do here. Yeah. I mean, just totally ignoring his own personal responsibility in all of this. And as one reporter from TMZ pointed out, hey, dude, we were able to get this tape easily. Why didn't you have the tape? Because at this point, Peter will get to the latest news on the NFL in just a second here. But at this point, Roger Goodell is still living behind this, or trying to have us believe this lie that the NFL had not seen the tape before TMZ released it. Here's a TMZ reporter challenging Goodell.
Should we do more to get that information in the future? That's a question I want these experts to do.
We found out by one phone call. You guys have a whole legal department.
Yeah. Ooh. They got 1,000 people working at the NFL. They probably have 100 people in their legal department. Easy. Yeah. Why couldn't they? Yeah. Well, it turns out they did have the tape. They did have the evidence. That's the latest, Peter.
So, Outside the Lines is a phenomenal program on ESPN. They go behind the scenes, outside the lines. And their latest report on the whole Ray Rice situation shows that the NFL cover-up is way worse than we even thought. So there's this question of what's the deal with the tape? Who saw it, and what do they know? The NFL this whole time has been hiding behind the fact that Ray Rice and his fiancée said that it was mutually aggressive and that it was ambiguous as to what happened in the elevator. They didn't know, right? So Outside the Line reports that an Atlantic City police officer described exactly what was on the video to the NFL and to the Ravens head of security.
The entire video.
She never hit him. He punched her with a closed fist and knocked her out. Knocked her down, hit the railing, knocked her out.
When was this that they had the video?
This was in April.
So those unconfirmed reports that they actually had the video in April are true.
They are true. And
Goodell said he never saw the video until we saw it.
And Goodell also says he didn't know what happened. He kept saying, like, well, I thought it was...
It was ambiguous.
He thought it was a slap and a defensive slap. So Outside the Line goes on to say that Ray Rice's attorney told the Ravens what was on exactly what was on the tape. He said it was blanking horrible, quote, and he told the head of Ravens, the Ravens president, quote, Ray knocked her the blank out. Knocked her out. And that when Ray Rice met with Roger Goodell in July, he told Goodell exactly what happened. I punched her. I punched her with a fist, and I knocked her out. So this whole idea...
And Goodell still does nothing.
It's nothing.
At that point, he hadn't even...
It was the two... Right.
He hadn't even done him suspended for 2 games at that point. Right.
So he takes this information, and he levels the 2-game suspension. The head coach of the Ravens, Harbaugh, he says we got to address this. We got to sit him down. We can't have this. The Ravens GM and president said no. He plays. He's too important to this team. we got to win, and the best way to win is with Ray Rice.
So both the NFL and the Ravens covered it up.
Covered it up. Look, Ray Rice isn't a nice guy.
No.
But this idea that Ray Rice lied and tried to cover things up and wasn't honest, it's becoming clearer and clearer that that's just not the case. He was upfront about what happened. His lawyer described exactly what happened. It still doesn't change the fact that he's a jerk and shouldn't be playing in the NFL, but he was upfront about it, and the NFL is now acting like they were duped. They were not.
Well, the question still, I think the question even more so today is, can Roger Goodell survive this whole scandal, this trouble for the NFL, or should he? And I mean, shouldn't, I mean, it seems to me it all happened, number one, certainly it all happened on his watch, but number two, he played a bigger role than we even thought in covering up the information here and not taking any action and creating a culture of violence where it was deemed that you could almost do anything off the field and get away with it, certainly when it came to domestic abuse. As I keep coming back to what Keith Olbermann summed it up, I think, in his commentary on ESPN, Roger Goodell is an enabler of men who beat women.
Yep.
Period.
That's perfectly said.
Yeah. And to that extent, I don't care how much money he's made for the NFL. I think it'd be important for the players, for the owners to come together and say, we need a total new image. You know how much I hate Condi Rice. Put Condi Rice. I had a big debate at a dinner party Saturday night with friends because I was saying, make Condi Rice a commissioner. Everybody thought I was nuts. And I said, are you kidding? Yeah, better there than starting another war in Iraq. I mean, Obama's doing that. Don't need her. And you know, I'd rather have her there than Roger Goodell.
Well, the thing that struck me about Goodell on Friday is, because I made a point to watch. I wanted to see
pathetic
what he had to say. It was just an inconvenience for him. He didn't seem to care. He didn't seem to realize that this is a real problem.
Yeah.
It just looked to me like this is a guy who doesn't truly care, but he feels like this is something that he has to do. If that wasn't the case, why didn't he say anything?
I think his apology was not very sincere either.
It was awful.
I think, yeah.
It was awful.
Oh, yeah. Damn it, I got caught.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Move on. No. Yeah. Roger Goodell. Time for him to go. 866-55-PRESS. Bill Press Show, Monday morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, friends and neighbors, take a little time out now for just a word about Free Speech TV, how important it is, and how much we depend on your help. You know, I hate to tell you this, but I've been around this radio and television business for a long time now, starting out with KABC TV in Los Angeles and KABC Talk Radio, moving on the radio front over to KFI Radio, and on TV over to KCOP Radio, and then bouncing back here to Washington, D.C., 6 years on CNN at Crossfire, and then a couple of years at MSNBC with Pat Buchanan on Buchanan and Press, and then Current TV, of course, covering and carrying our nationally syndicated radio show on a simulcast. But I got to tell you, with all of those different great organizations I've worked for, I have never felt that so totally free and so totally independent in terms of broadcasting the news of the day as I do here on Free Speech TV, because Free Speech TV, that's what it is. I mean, it's a progressive voice channel, 24/7, totally independent. As you know, no government funding and no corporate funding and no big donor pressure at all. Totally independent. And how do we do it? Well, that's thanks to you and to your support. We couldn't do without it. And that's why we turn to you once or twice a year to ask you to first of all, to thank you for being so generous, and then to ask you to help out again as much as you can. And some premiums that we can offer this time around, maybe to make it more attractive for you to dig in and help us out, if you can help us with just $10 a month, $120 a year, we'll send you a Bill Press mug and a pound of coffee. For $240, that mug, that coffee, and a French press. That's just $20 a month. For $30 a month, $360 a year, a mug, a coffee, the French press, and you'll participate in what we're calling Voices of the People. You and I will have a 5-minute phone conversation about whatever issue you want to talk about or issues you want to talk about, and we'll put all those together and we'll air them on our show as Voices of the People. You can be part of that. And if somehow you can make your way to Washington, D.C. and send $1,000 to Free Speech TV, make your way to Washington, Carol and I will take you out to dinner and bring you into the studio the next morning to watch the show. However, whatever level you can help out, please give us a call at 877-378-8669 or go to the website freespeech.org. Help as much as you can, and thank you for being so generous and allowing us to do a great job with you every day.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
12 minutes before the top of the hour. Yeah, it is the NFL scandal that just won't go away. Number one, because they are handling it. I think, number one, there's only one reason. Because they're handling it so poorly, led by Roger Goodell, sadly, still at this point. Time for him to go. 866-55-PRESS. Again, Terry O'Neill, president of the National Organization for Women, one of the first to call for Goodell's resignation, will be along with us later in the program. Terry O'Neill saying over the weekend that she thinks, Roger Goodell thinks this is just a PR problem.
Roger Goodell thinks he has a public relations problem on his hand. And his aim is to get this story off the front page.
Well, guess what? It's more than a PR problem. And number two, he's not doing a very good job of getting it off the front page.
That's an excellent point, by the way, because that press conference was not a guy that really cared about the deep underlying problems of violence among NFL players. It was a guy who thought he could explain away or have a press conference to just get rid of the story.
Let me pretend I'm doing my job.
Yeah. By the way, we're on Twitter at BP Show, Definitely follow us there. Chime in, join the conversation. A couple of comments on Roger Goodell. Also, I thought a good comment on the White House security. Irish Eyes says that they've been watching the Roosevelt series. Ken
by the way,
Roosevelt series.
Magnificent.
So good, right?
Yeah.
Well, it points out that the public used to be able to walk right up onto the porch of the White House. They really embraced that idea of the public's house, but not anymore. Other comments on Roger Goodell. AUD asks, why hasn't anyone been fired yet? Change in procedures? That's ridiculous. They didn't do the procedures that they had in the first place. And then Honey Bear Kelly weighs in and says, I think that if Goodell had given Rice a 6-game suspension, people would have forgotten his crime, sadly.
Yeah,
which I don't know if I disagree. I think that's probably a pretty good point because everyone noticed the ridiculousness of the 2-game suspension. I don't know that it would have been a huge story if it was a 6-game suspension. I really don't.
Yeah, sadly,
horribly.
Right.
But I think that they could have gotten away with it.
And again, that ties in. The president, the vice president, we're talking about this on Friday too. It ties to the fact that still, as a society, we do not take spousal abuse, domestic abuse seriously enough. And we do not take violence against women seriously enough. And particularly, number one offenders, the NFL. Roger Goodell. Out in Palm Springs, California. Hi, Chandler.
Hi, Bill. I had the same reaction you did to word for word to the Roger Goodell speech. But my question addresses what you just mentioned. Why was nothing specifically said to protect what they're going to do, about what they're going to do to protect the victims of these attacks? Because the victims, remember, the females as well as probably the children, will be blamed for the fact that these valuable players are not playing and making money.
Oh yeah, the women are always blamed, right?
Indeed, but there's no program for the victims. How do we know Janae isn't being beaten at home now?
We don't know that.
We do not know that. Yeah,
and there is. I do think that there is some sort of. The NFL can't police everything that happens off the field, right? I understand that. They can't get into the lives of what's going on in the field. I don't know that that's their job to do that. But when you have a situation like this, in such a public way, in such a violent way, that arrests are made and the police are interfering, you've got to have a better plan in place than to just have one guy, Roger Goodell, make this decision on the punishment. Because look at what happened. You get terrible, terrible decisions.
Indeed. Chandler, thanks so much for the call. Marcia down in Raleigh, North Carolina. Peter, you were just down there in
Yes,
Raleigh.
indeed.
All right.
Raleigh's a great place.
Hi,
yeah,
Marcia.
so, Bill, you're still wrong. You said yesterday, last time I called, you said the NFL had these standards. But your job is not the place to make criminal activity, to deal with criminal activity. Your job should be putting you on mandatory counseling. That lady that Rick Perry
Terry O'Neill?
wanted arrested, she was drunk in court, and she still has her job. That's not the place to make the changes that you want to make. If you want to correct somebody's behavior, you send them to counseling.
Well, no, wait, Marcia. Now, we're talking about these are football players who they have no God-given constitutional right to play professional football. They were hired to play for a certain team, and the teams are members of the NFL. The NFL and every team, they've got a code of conduct. When they sign their contract, they get their, let's take Adrian Peterson, $11.7 million a year, thank you very much, salary. They agree they're going to conduct themselves according to a very clearly defined code of conduct. And if they violate that, they have to be held responsible. Boom. What do you mean you don't do anything about it? Of course you do something about it. Yes, you let the law take its point. We're not talking about whether or not the NFL decides if they go to prison for 5 years or 10 years or never at all. We're saying, are they still allowed to play ball if they violate their contract? No, especially if they violate their contract by abusing women, which they've always been allowed to get away with. Why? Because the NFL tolerates and encourages violence on the field and off the field, and that's just got to stop. I'm sorry, Marcia. I'm right. You're wrong.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, Peter.
Bill and Hillary Clinton?
Yes.
Grandparents soon? How soon?
No.
Yesterday on Fareed Zakaria GPS on CNN, former President Bill Clinton said, quote, I hope by the 1st of October I'll be a grandfather. So we could be like...
No, that's soon?
10 days away.
Whoa, I didn't know.
It's coming soon.
Oh, yeah, but we got to get the baby watch out.
I know.
Yeah, man, I'm
that's
telling
right.
you.
It's
get the cameras outside of Chelsea's little condo there, and how about it? And then Hillary she'll have another book tour as a grandmother.
That's right.
Book out. All right. Hey, coming up, more with Alex Bolton from The Hill as a friend of Bill.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Expected tens of thousands. How exciting it was to see hundreds of thousands of people turn out in New York City to demand action on climate change from the world's leaders meeting in New York to discuss climate change and to consider taking action. And all these people came together from all over the world to say, we demand action. It's the most serious threat facing our planet, and you've got to stop talking about it and do something about it. That's the kind of partnership that is needed to get some action on climate change. And watching those huge crowds, I'm just sorry I wasn't there myself, and I was thinking that's the kind of partnership that we have every day right here on Free Speech TV, because this is a real partnership. You know, we, Stephanie and Tom and Amy and I and all the rest, we bring you the news of the day. We bring you up to date on all the issues that you really care about. And then we open up and give you a chance to tell us what it all means to you. That is a real partnership. And we're a partnership, of course, in another way, too, that your generous support is what keeps us on the air doing our job, what enables us to get together every day. I mean, Free Speech TV is unlike any other cable TV channel. You know that. Free Speech TV is free and independent and fearless. We can be that for one reason only, because we have no corporate funding, no government funding. We depend on you and your generosity to keep us on the air, and you've been so good to us so far. Well, now it's that time again to ask you to dig in again and to keep us going, keep this partnership alive and strong. We ask you again for your support in any way you can, as generous as you can, and of course, to maybe give you a little incentive to do so, we offer you some special gifts. Very excited about the gifts for this pledge drive. For $120 a year, or just $10 a month, we'll send you a Bill Press Show mug and a pound of coffee, special coffee. For $240 a year, or $20 a month, you get the mug and a pound of coffee and a French press to go with it. There's a whole bag of tricks that you need. Get that morning cup of coffee. We'll even make it better. For $360 a year, or $30 a month. Very, very special. You get the mug and the coffee and the French press. And then you'll be invited to have a 5-minute telephone conversation with me on any issue or issues you want to talk about. We will blend them all together like a good cup of coffee and play that collection of phone calls on the air as part of our Voices of the People project. And if you can help us with $1,000, you get yourselves to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner, bring you into the studio, and we'll have a great time together. Give us a call today at 1-877-378-8669 and make your pledge, or go to freespeech.org. Again, please be as generous as you can, and thank you for keeping our partnership alive and strong.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are 3 incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see, the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hundreds of thousands of people turned out in New York City, even more all around the world, to demand action on climate change. So let's hope it happens this week. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Bill Press Show on this Monday, September 22nd. Good to be with you on your local progressive talk radio station, your nationwide national progressive morning show. Good to be with you on Free Speech TV worldwide. Nice to see you on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Welcome to the program on this Monday, September 22nd. We're here in our nation's capital. Just about the only people here in town these days. The House is gone. The Senate is gone. Well, the President, the Vice President, still around. But we'll keep you up to date on the news of the day from Washington, such as it is around the country, around the globe, and most importantly, give you a chance to sound off on the issues of the day by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. Show. There is a lot to talk about today, so we need some extra help. As a friend of Bill for this hour, and we thank him for coming in again. Our good friend, senior staff writer for The Hill, Alex Bolton. Hello, Alex.
Hi, Bill. Great to be here.
All right. What a way to start off the week, huh?
Absolutely. I have to be charging right out of the gate. Usually on when the Congress is on recess on Mondays, I don't have to roll into work until a little bit later. But
and then we came up and screwed up your whole plan.
Yeah, well, you know, one of the reasons I want to come in is actually have something to talk about because Congress has been here until just last Thursday. As they're out for, they're going to be out for 7 weeks. I mean, they're going to be out until the election. It's a huge span of time. So you don't want me a month from now because I'm going to have absolutely nothing to say.
In a month, we'll talk about baseball playoffs. We'll find some other stuff to talk about. Related.
We'll have won the World Series by then. Yeah.
People are talking like that.
Oh, I know. Here we go. By the way, Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy.
Hey, happy Monday.
Already chiming in with Alicia Cruz on the phones. Nat's gear on this morning too. He's he's right on. Do we know how many games they need now to win the National League? They've already won the Eastern Division.
That's a good question.
Cyprian, no. Hey, Cyprian.
Well, I think they just have to win against the in the playoffs. I think that's when we'll know.
No, before the playoffs, they'll know, won't they?
Yeah.
If they have the best regular season record in the
National League, I mean, you have to go through the playoffs and win the National League. I mean, you win your division, and then you're top ranked in your division. So then you go through the playoffs and wild card, and then you play the other divisions. But you can't just win the National League in the regular season. You have to go through the playoffs.
Although it used to be you could.
Yeah,
they used to not have playoffs.
That's right. Right, that is true. But now, I mean, you have to. That's why, even though they had the best record baseball a couple years ago, they ended up losing. Because you have to go through.
Well, they come home this week for 7 more home games before the playoffs. Right. And by the way, playoff tickets, Alex, I already checked. They go on sale today at 10 o'clock Washington time.
Yeah, and I've had some friends look into them, and they're not cheap. I guess you can get something in the upper deck for, I guess, in the range of what? I guess the prices go up actually as the playoffs go on, and if you want to get them all in advance, it's a big chunk of change. But if you want to just get the first series, I guess you can get something in the upper deck for a reasonable amount. It won't kill you.
I'll tell you this.
Whoa, upper deck, right? And anything below is just probably out of sight.
Well, a friend of mine just got tickets left field level, 110 section for the first playoff series, and I think it was like $130 a seat.
Just wait, because the elimination series that I went to a couple years ago, the elimination game, against the Cardinals, it was like $120 for standing room only tickets.
Wow!
So you just have to find somewhere to stand.
Right. Alex Bolton here with us this first half hour. We'll be joined. Alex here is for the entire hour. Actually, he's a friend of Bill. We'll be joined by Lauren French from Politico at the half hour. In the next hour, Terry O'Neill, president of the National Organization for Women, in studio. Taking on Roger Goodell and her response to his news conference on Friday. I think this is her first television appearance to talk about Roger Goodell's news conference Friday. And then Mitch Jones will be here talk about the big climate change rally yesterday. But first, this
is the Full Court Press.
Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories making news. Talking about sports, yesterday, Fox ran an ad for Comedy Central. Their season premiere of South Park is going to take on the Washington football team and their name. Nobody skewers quite as harshly as South Park, so you can expect it's going to be a pretty brutal takedown. They only ran the ad in the Washington, D.C. market, which, I mean, we're talking about it more than anybody else. So, I can't wait to see how that's going to turn out. That's going to be really good.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday. It was pretty good.
It's going to be wild.
Maybe that's what it'll take. To get Dan
South Park
Snyder
will finally turn the tide. Alert, if you are in Newcastle, Delaware, keep an eye out.
No, get it. Wait a minute. What is
this? The Naked Jogger. Have you heard of the Naked Jogger?
No, but I know Newcastle really well. It's right up the street from Delaware City, right up the road from Delaware City.
I had a feeling you knew this. I had a feeling you knew this story. There has been a man spotting near Shetland Drive and Chadwick Boulevard in Newcastle, Delaware. Around midnight, he's been spotted 3 times out jogging, wearing nothing but a backpack. They're calling him the Naked Jogger. Surveillance footage has confirmed some of the witnesses' accounts, so keep an eye out if you are in Newcastle, Delaware.
It's a good time to jog naked. Midnight.
So he ran all the way across the country from Berkeley, is that right?
Yeah. And he's 40 years too late.
Yeah, right. And a new
streaking has really gone out of style, hasn't
it? And a new survey from Mashable.com reports that almost 10% of Americans admitted to showing up to work high on marijuana. 9.7% of Americans confessed that they get high before they go to work.
Wait a minute.
Or that they have gotten high before they
In Colorado?
No, all around the country. That's the other thing. Of those 10%, 81% of them say that they got their cannabis illegally. So they're illegally getting high and then going to work, which is something I know you've never done.
Not in a long time.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while. But you showed up to work high before. Yes? No? I'm just assuming you have.
In my life?
Yes.
Yes.
Of course you have.
Yeah.
Peter, do you want to take that question?
I have. I mean, I haven't this week. It's only Monday.
Well, it's only Monday.
So we're keeping the average up. Alex?
No comment. No. But they're saying, have you ever done it? So, yeah, of course I have.
I've told this story before, Alex, about I was running for office in California at one time, and I got a call from this reporter who says, we're doing a survey of all the candidates, and the question is, have you ever smoked pot? And so you can, think about it, and we'll call you back in a day or so and get your response. We're asking everybody, right? And I said, yes. He said, what do you mean? I said, the answer is yes. He said, well, don't you... Well, I said, no, I don't want to think about it. The answer is yes. And I was the only candidate...
You were ahead of your time.
Yeah, I was the only candidate who would admit it. I'm sure I'm not the only candidate who would smoke pot, but yeah. So today, if you haven't smoked pot, you might as well not run for office.
That's a good point. I'm sure Mitt Romney did not smoke pot.
No.
I believe it. I don't believe a lot of politicians when they say that. I believe Mitt Romney. I don't think he's ever smoked pot.
I think you're right.
Rand
about
Paul,
that.
I can see having smoked pot.
Yeah.
Well, he admits it, doesn't he?
The Aqua Buddha.
Aqua Buddha, right. All right, here we go. We got to get to work here. 16 minutes after the hour. Yes, Congress did get out of town suddenly at the end of the week, Alex. But as you've been reporting, before they left, they did kind of sort of vote on ISIS, both the House and the Senate, but they did not authorize a new war in Iraq. They just authorized retraining or training and arming the Syrian rebels.
Yeah, they authorized training and arming the Syrian rebels, but didn't appropriate any money for it. The president asked for $500 million to do this at the end of June, and that request has languished, and that request still hasn't been funded. So they gave the president the green light to arm and train the rebels, but I think the consensus is he had that already. What he wanted was the money, and it wasn't a lot of money either. By congressional standards, it was a drop in the bucket, $500 million. They didn't even do that. In fact, the House appropriators who put the bill together were were very explicit. There's no extra money in here. This is going to be paid for by international contributions, which I think is wishful thinking. But even if it isn't, they'll say they have to find money in their existing funds. There's no special money to do this. So it was about as cautious a vote as you could get. And even so, there was a lot of opposition. People thought, critics said that this would lead to another ground war in Asia.
Mm-hmm. And like Congressman John Garamendi was sitting where you're sitting Friday. He was here in the studio with us. And John Garamendi, Barbara Lee, earlier in the week had pointed out to us that this was hardly a vote to authorize a war. This was just a vote to authorize one little segment of, or maybe one facet of what the president says is going to be his combined strategy against ISIS. And as you say, and even then they didn't put up the money for it. Why so cautious?
Well, I think because if you look at the way this whole vote was set up, the White House doesn't need the authority to train and equip the Assyrian rebels, but they wanted some sort of buy-in for Congress for what they really want to do, which is strike at ISIS.
Yes.
I mean, what this is all about is the War Powers Act, which requires Congress to weigh in within 60 days of military action, and there's been military action because the president's been striking ISIS, so he needed some sort of constitutional buy-in from Congress, but he didn't want to ask for the permission for what he really wanted to do or what he is doing or for what he needs permission to do, which is to actually blow up people with missiles. That's what he needs the permission for.
Right.
But it's too fraught because this is such a political town. No one wanted to have a debate on a real war resolution before an election. And the president still felt he needed some buy-in from Congress. So let's get this resolution that gives Congress some buy-in, but that doesn't really mean anything. And to make doubly sure it doesn't mean anything, it won't appropriate any money either, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah. So does that mean that they will come back after the midterms and have a real, honest-to-God war resolution debate or war authorization debate?
I mean, they say they will, and
some say, right?
Some say that's exactly right. And it was interesting on Thursday. There was a press conference, leadership press conference. Harry Reid, the Senate Majority Leader, Dick Durbin, number 2, the whip from Illinois, and Chuck Schumer, number 3 from New York. And Durbin announces, when we come back, we're going to have hearings and then leading to a vote on an authorization for use of force against ISIS. And this is what people want, and this is what we're going to debate when we get back here, and there's going to be a vote on this. And I wrote a story saying Democratic leaders say there will be a vote on the use of force resolution after the midterm elections.
Mm-hmm. I read your story, and?
Well, I don't know if you noticed it, but we had to change the headline a little bit, or the lead a little bit, because I got a call from someone letting me know, well, that decision hasn't been finalized yet. Durbin wasn't quite authorized to say that. That isn't set in stone yet. And I thought that was very surprising because Durbin made this announcement at a leadership press conference off scripted remarks, so this wasn't something off the cuff.
And he was there with the leader.
Yeah, he was standing right next to Schumer was on one side, Harry Reid was on the other side. I assumed this was an official pronouncement that Durbin was making on behalf of the leadership.
No, when Dick Durbin said that, it sounded like they were putting themselves on record to say, we are going to vote.
So they walked it back. So I think there is, so just because they walked it back, I think there is a little wiggle room there. So I don't know whether they will or they won't. But there's after the election, there's not much danger. There's nothing to lose. So why not do it? And it seems like a lot of people want it.
But to me, join our conversation. We'll make room for you here at 866-55-PRESS. To me, we talk about the do-nothing Congress. This is the essence of the do-nothingness of this do-nothing Congress, if you ask me. That here we are, we all know we're moving toward another war in the Middle East, and Congress has just basically let it happen without using its, demanding a vote, exercising its authority, and refusing, running from a vote before midterm elections. Yeah.
I can understand why they want to run from a vote before a midterm election, because it's especially for I think it's interesting, you had both the House Republicans running and you had the Senate Democrats running. The only one who wanted to vote around here really was Mitch McConnell, because it would have been he knew it would have been bad politics for the Democrats to vote on another war right before the midterm elections when the base is already shaky, and the liberal voters, if the Democrats need to show up, aren't feeling so enthusiastic about Obama. you throw a war debate into the mix, and that type of debate can get really messy.
Alex Bolton with us from the Hill. As a friend of Bill, you are a friend of Bill too. Join the conversation anytime at 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Expected tens of thousands. How exciting it was to see hundreds of thousands of people turn out in New York City to demand action on climate change from the world's leaders meeting in New York to discuss climate change and to consider taking action. And all these people came together from all over the world to say, we demand action. It's the most serious threat facing our planet, and you've got to stop talking about it and do something about it. That's the kind of partnership that is needed to get some action on climate change. And watching those huge crowds, I'm just sorry I wasn't there myself. I was thinking that's the kind of partnership that we have every day right here on Free Speech TV, because this is a real partnership. We, Stephanie and Tom and Amy and I and all the rest, we bring you the news of the day. We bring you up to date on all the issues that you really care about. And then we open up and give you a chance to tell us what it all means to you. That is a real partnership. And we're a partnership, of course, in another way, too, that your generous support is what keeps us on the air doing our job, what enables us to get together every day. I mean, Free Speech TV is unlike any other cable TV channel. You know that. Free Speech TV is free and independent and fearless. We can be that for one reason only, because we have no corporate funding, no government funding. We depend on you and your generosity to keep us on the air, and you've been so good to us so far. Well, now it's that time again to ask you to dig in again and to keep us going, keep this partnership alive and strong. We ask you again for your support in any way you can, as generous as you can, and of course, to maybe give you a little incentive to do so, we offer you some special gifts. Very excited about the gifts for this pledge drive. For $120 a year, or just $10 a month, we'll send you a Bill Press Show mug and a pound of coffee, special coffee. For $240 a year, or $20 a month, you get the mug and a pound of coffee and a French press to go with it. There's a whole bag of tricks that you need. Get that morning cup of coffee. We'll even make it better. For $360 a year, or $30 a month, very, very special, you get the mug and the coffee and the French press. And then you'll be invited to have a 5-minute telephone conversation with me on any issue or issues you want to talk about. We will blend them all together like a good cup of coffee and play that collection of phone calls on the air as part of our Voices of the People project. And if you can help us with $1,000, you get yourselves to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner, bring you into the studio, and we'll have a great time together. Give us a call today at 1-877-378-8669 and make your pledge, or go to freespeech.org. Again, please be as generous as you can, and thank you for keeping our partnership alive and strong.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
This is the Bill Press Show.
27 minutes after the hour, here with Alex Bolton from The Hill. Lauren French from Politico joins the conversation here in the studio in the next half hour. Alex, a question to me, And, the question comes up at the briefing, White House briefings almost every day. Is the president going to request authorization from Congress? No is the answer, because he feels he already has the authority. I don't think that's the right question. The question is, why doesn't Congress demand a vote? I mean, it's their job.
Because they're scared. They're scared that this could come back to haunt them. And I think what is weighing on everybody is this vote from 2002, which turned out to be a political disaster for a lot of people.
Starting with Hillary Clinton.
And that's why if you looked at the way people voted on this past Thursday in the Senate, it was almost a roadmap of who has presidential ambitions. Kirsten Gillibrand was a no, whereas otherwise she's a pretty centrist senator. She's very tight with Schumer. The only reason that she's voting no there, I think, is that she's thinking about running for president one day and doesn't want this to haunt her like Hillary was haunted.
Elizabeth Warren voted no.
Of course, Elizabeth Warren voted no too.
Bernie Sanders voted no.
Sanders, who's the most, probably has the least chance, but he's the most outspoken about running. He also voted no. Exactly.
Right. Yeah, that'd be interesting to look at that vote in the House as well. I'm going to have to study that list a little more closely. Alex Bolton here with The Hill and the vote on ISIS. We'll be right back with Lauren French joining us from Politico. Stay tuned.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, what do you say, friends and neighbors? Good to see you today. I want to take a little time out from the news of the day to talk about something very, very, very important. And we've got for you today, well, you've heard all about the Ice Bucket Challenge, right? That the most successful fundraising effort, I think, ever in history to raise money to find a cure for that dreadful disease, ALS. Well, we've got something a little different than the Ice Bucket Challenge and maybe a little more comforting. It's not the Ice Bucket Challenge today. It's the Coffee Challenge, yeah. And we also want the Coffee Challenge, to raise money for Free Speech TV to be the most successful fundraising effort ever for Free Speech TV, especially here on the Bill Press program. Now, this is so much easier. You don't have to get all a bucket of ice water over your head. You don't even, of course, you don't have to have hot coffee poured over your head. Here's how it works. You help us at Free Speech TV, and we will send you tons of coffee to enjoy, depending on how much you can help, of course. Now, I don't have to tell you why we need your help. Free Speech TV, the only truly independent cable television network out there at all, and the only truly progressive television network out there. And the only way we can stay independent is no government money, no corporate money, no foundation money. It is all just your donations that keep us going. And look what you get for your dollar. You get this great lineup of progressive hosts every day, me and Tom Hartman, Stephanie Miller, Amy Goodman, and others all day long, bringing you the news of the day with our commentary, our insights, and, of course, your calls and your comments as well. So for the Coffee Challenge, if you can help us with just $10 a month, $120, we'll send you a pound of coffee and a Bill Press mug. If you can help us with $240 or just $20 a month, we'll send you that mug and a pound of coffee and a French press. How about it? To put it all together. For $30 a month, $360, the mug, the coffee, the French press, of course, and something very, very special, you'll be part of what we're calling Voice of the People. You and I will have a 5-minute telephone conversation. We'll record all those telephone conversations of people at the $360 level. We'll put them together and play them on the air, your chance to become a national celebrity with me here on the Bill Press Show. That's for $30 a month or $360. And, of course, if you have the means and are willing to send $1,000 to Free Speech TV, God bless you. You make your way to Washington. Carol and I will take you out to dinner and invite you into the studio the next morning to watch the show. Help us as much as you can. Join the Coffee Challenge at 1-877-378-8669 or go to our website, freespeech.org. All of us here at Free Speech need your help, and thank you for your help.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go at 33 minutes after the hour. It is The Bill Press Show. We are coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. And we're brought to you today by the Laborers International Union of North America, the good men and women of the Laborers Union under President Terry O'Sullivan. We all live better because of their good work building America. That's their website, LIUNA, L-I-U-N-A, buildsamerica.org. Check it out. Thank them for their sponsorship of the program and salute their good work. We are talking about some of the leftover business by the United States Congress after the House and the Senate both left town for 7 weeks to concentrate on the midterm elections. They left town on Friday. Alex Bolton is here the entire hour as a friend of Bill. He covers Congress, senior political writer for The Hill. Lauren French now joins us, back in studio with us, congressional reporter for Politico. Hi, Lauren. Good to see you.
Hey, how you doing?
So the big question is, how are you guys going to spend the next 7 weeks? I mean, kick back.
I'm going to try to go to a lot of yoga classes. Working yoga classes.
Lots of long lunches. Yeah, yoga classes.
Sourcing.
I foresee many...
Sourcing. Is that what we call it?
I foresee many speculative stories about 2016.
You know what? Yeah. Right. As a fallback, that's where everybody ends up.
It's
right?
going to be following Elizabeth Warren, Ted Cruz, Rand Paul around the country, and seeing...
Don't forget Bernie.
And Bernie.
Right.
Yes. And Bernie, who's been barnstorming through the South.
Yes.
Looking to take back the South for the Democrats.
And he was
Howard Dean.
And he was in Iowa the same weekend. Hillary's at the steak fry. And Bernie was at the big climate change march in New York yesterday, the only potential presidential candidate to be there. So
I don't know.
He's really moving around.
I don't know why people don't take him more seriously, because I think he's a pretty logical guy.
We take him very seriously here, and I look forward to the first debate between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. I think it'll be okay. So one big bit of news that kind of escaped a lot of people last week, Lauren, you wrote about, is I had totally forgotten about the Republican lawsuit, House Republican lawsuit against President Obama. I mean, that John Boehner announced 2-3 months ago.
In June,
right?
yeah. It really did kind of fall off the congressional plate. It wasn't something people were focused on or speaking about.
They aren't even talking a lot about it.
No, I mean, I think ISIS trumpeted onto the scene. You had the CR, that avoiding a government shutdown. You had a lot of other issues that really came up over the summer since when the House voted to approve that lawsuit, and it really did get pushed to the back. But we were reminded of it on Friday when the House had to change its lawyer for the lawsuit. The first firm, Baker Hostetler, had to back out from apparently political pressure from other clients for taking on this lawsuit. Their clients, from what we understand, really viewed it as like an overtly political move, partisan move, and put some pressure on the firm to drop it. So eventually David Rifkin, who was the first lawyer on that lawsuit, backed out. The House had to sign up a new lawyer on Friday.
And the lawsuit, again, Alex, was to accuse the president of exceeding his authority, particularly on health care.
Right,
correct?
Exactly. I didn't follow it all that closely. I mean, I think it was so fellow colleague characterized it as impeachment light, and I think that's exactly what it was. It was
sort of John Boehner's answer to those who said you have to push for impeachment. Impeachment. Boehner said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to do this instead.
And I'm not surprised the law firm came under pressure, because it was purely partisan, and I think that's what people forgot about so quickly. I don't think a lot of people took it all that seriously.
Yeah, and most legal experts we talked to at the time said it was would be probably thrown out of court as a frivolous lawsuit. Didn't have much chance, but they did get this one law firm. Pretty embarrassing when your lead law firm drops out and you have to hire somebody else, right? But so what are they saying, Lauren? Are they saying they're still going to pursue it? It's an embarrassment to House Republicans to have this hanging out there, it seems to me. Are they going to continue with it?
They are going to continue with it. I think they would quibble with your term that it was an embarrassment.
Not for the first time.
Yeah, you and House Republicans quibbling probably quite often. But yeah, they're going to go forward with it. I actually interviewed Bob Goodlatte, who's the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, on Friday, and he said that he thought that House Republicans could actually bring more lawsuits against the president, especially if he did act.
Good. That's what we need. Yeah.
If the president went forward with any executive actions on immigration after the November elections, he wasn't guaranteeing it. He just said that would be something he was interested in. The lawsuit hasn't been filed yet in federal court, probably because of this lawyer snafu, I would imagine. But no, House Republicans do want to go forward with this, as much as it's been criticized as a partisan stunt, especially by Democrats. They really view it as the only way to keep a check on Republicans, and more privately to keep a check on some of the more rambunctious parts of their caucus who do want to go for impeachment. And that's not something that John Boehner really wants to push for.
Do we have any idea how much money this lawsuit is costing and who's paying for it?
Taxpayers are paying for it. It's coming out of a general fund in the House.
I'm paying for it?
Yes. And they're billing at $500 an hour, and it's
pay for that damn lawsuit.
$350,000.
Is that what they've?
$350,000 billing at $500 an hour.
Whoa, for nothing. All right,
I got into the wrong business. Yeah.
Right? Exactly. Alex, you've been writing about Mitch McConnell kind of maybe feeling his oats, thinking not only might he win, but Republicans might just be able to take back the Senate, has been dropping some hints about what we can expect from a Republican-controlled Senate, to which I would add, God forbid, but go ahead. So what's he saying?
Well, they're not going to dive right into repealing Obamacare, even though that's maybe what Ted Cruz wants and maybe what the House conservatives want. He's going to, or what he says he's going to do is...
After all, the House has only voted for it 55 times, so... Right.
Well, now if they have the Senate, here's their chance to finally, get something to the president's desk. And
but that's not... That. He said number one. No. No,
that's not going to be it. What he wants to do is he wants to show that Republicans can govern. And, the main message that Senate Democrats had this year is that Republicans are obstructionists. They just want to blow up the place. They don't want anything to work. And that argument doesn't get a whole lot of credence or coverage by the media here in D.C. just because we're so tired of it. But it does have traction back in the states. And the Democrats are feeling, even though there are a lot of predictions of waves and such, Democrats are feeling pretty confident that they can hold the Senate. So the obstruction message, the message that Republicans don't want to get anything done, has been pretty effective. So what McConnell wants to do when he gets in charge is show that Republicans can actually get things done. So he will move things that have bipartisan support that Democrats are on record as supporting, like Keystone XL pipeline, like repeal of the medical device tax, and he's going to move those things, put pressure on Democrats to vote for it, and hopefully get some of those things to the president's desk. And after what's been, I think, a 4-year fallow period, maybe Obama would want to sign some of these things. Maybe he would sign the Keystone XL pipeline. Maybe he would sign some of these trade provisions that have bipartisan support that Harry Reid has bottled up. But if McConnell were the majority leader, could possibly pass Congress and get to the president's desk. And the president has always thought of himself as a someone who can bridge the divide. So maybe he would want to show that he's a good sport and would play along, so that we could see a little burst of productivity next year if Republicans take over.
Are you suggesting, again, God forbid, that Congress might actually be more productive if the Republicans controlled both the House and the Senate?
I think they would be. And Bob Corker, who is a guy who tries to... He's a deal maker in the Senate, although there hasn't been much deal making lately. What he tells the president in their... whenever he sees him, is you'd be much better with a Republican Senate because we could actually work together. And I think some Democrats think, maybe Obama wouldn't be so badly off if Republicans were in charge. They think back to Clinton after he lost the Democratic Congress. That's when he was productive, when he was able to triangulate, when he was able to run and position himself against a fully Republican Congress. It's tough now for the president to do that because the Democrats control the Senate. But if Republicans did have unified control of the Congress, then Obama would be more of a negotiator. Right now, Harry Reid's the firewall, and so there's not much for Obama to negotiate with. or negotiate about, because it's Reed is the first hurdle.
The flaw that I see in that theory, Lauren, is that this sort of assumes that there's some kind of coherence or unanimity between House Republicans and Senate Republicans. They're really two different brand of fish, aren't they?
They really are. When you talk about the split in the Republican Party, you can't see it any more clearly than the split between Senate Republicans and House Republicans. Different.
Look on immigration, even.
Immigration. I mean, on really almost any
Minimum
big
wage.
issue. Minimum wage. A ton of these issues. And I think a lot of that comes from the nature of the Senate versus the nature of the House, for sure. But you have many more Ted Cruz Republicans in the House than you do in the Senate. So I think he's right. I think that if the Senate does go Republican, you are going to see a little bit more action on some of these bills. Maybe they do step-by-step immigration versus a comprehensive immigration reform. Maybe they do Keystone XL, and we're going to see that as more productive than this last Congress. But yeah, it's not as if Republicans win the Senate and these House Republicans and the Senate Republicans are really going to come together and gel well, just because they are different creatures.
Lauren French here from Politico, Alex Bolton from The Hill. You'll never find two people who know The Hill better than the two that are right here in studio with us. Your chance to ask about the legislative agenda as it was, or as it will be when they come back 7 weeks from now. Good Lord. 86. I just like to check out for 7 weeks sometime. 866-55-PRESS is the toll-free number. Give us a call or send us your comments on Twitter @BP Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
13 minutes now before the top of the hour. It is the Bill Press Show on a Monday, September 22nd. We're talking congressional action or inaction on various issues here with Lauren French from Politico and Alex Bolton here from the Hill as a friend of Bill the entire hour. For Politico, of course, is Politico.com or thehill.com. Well, one issue that never seems to go away is Benghazi. And here it was back again last week with the first hearing of the new
the select committee
select committee
on
Benghazi with Trey Gowdy from Louisiana.
You thought it would have been rowdy.
Thank you. Yeah,
but the hearing, in fact, was not rowdy.
I expected it to be not just rowdy, fireworks. Everybody did. I mean, here they come back with Benghazi, and it's going to be a real knockdown, drag-out fight. What happened?
Well, you really shouldn't expect that from Trey Gowdy. He has said all along, and I know that there is the inevitability of the Washington press corps to be very skeptical and Democrats to be skeptical of Republicans, but he was saying all along he was not going to make a ruckus. He does not want his investigation to be a sideshow. He does not want it to be something that can be tagged as partisan, and that's really what you saw. Of course, there was a little bit of terse exchanges, but everything, it wasn't directed at one member to the other or one witness to a member. It was really directed at the State Department of past. So we hinted a little bit at Hillary Clinton. Name never really came up, but it was about the practices that allowed the State Department to really the practices the State Department had that allowed for Benghazi to happen. But it was really, there was no anger directed at current witnesses. One of the main witnesses wasn't even at the State Department when the attacks occurred back in 2012. So it was much more studious. It was much more about getting to the facts. It was much more about defining the scope of Trey Gowdy's investigation versus making headlines, which is not what you've seen with Benghazi in the past. You had Hillary Clinton come up, and there's that very famous clip now of her saying, at this point, why does it even matter, or something along those lines. And that's really gripped her critics, and that clip's shown over again. And when you talk about Benghazi, that's discussed, and that just never occurred in this hearing.
Isn't that what this hearing, no matter how restrained Mr. Gowdy may be, isn't that what this latest round of hearings is all about, Alex? Is just putting her out there an early roadblock for Hillary Clinton in 2016?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's...
And keeping the issue alive?
Sure, keeping the issue alive. Just like in New Jersey, the Democrats want to keep Bridgegate alive, and the state legislature has its investigation, and they're going to drag it out for as long as they can, and that's smart politics. And so that's what the Republicans are doing. They're keeping this thing on the burner, keeping it bubbling, making it as a big deal as they can, so that Hillary Clinton will have uncomfortable questions to answer next year. But what I think is the most interesting thing about this select committee is the saga of Trey Gowdy's hair. I mean, here's this guy with this unfortunate haircut, and even back in 2013, BuzzFeed called him the lawmaker with the most confusing hair in Congress. And so it's interesting to see how he'll try different styles. He'll try the slick back. He'll try the part. He's just trying to figure out what to do with his hair, because no one's going to take your investigation seriously if they don't take your hair seriously. And really, that's what Congress boils down to.
But he hasn't figured it out yet?
No, he got a Benghazi, a Mr. Chairman haircut right after he was announced. It's much tighter. There's no more of that Harry Potter Malfoy slicked back hairstyle. Maybe that's just giving away my age with that one. But
is he sticking to it?
He is. It's much shorter to the cut. I mean, he's got some weird hair, but he knows it. He's living it. He's accepting it.
So what's interesting now, then, to me, is this was even more so, is that the chairman and the chief of the focus of the hearings, Mr. Gowdy and Hillary Clinton, both got criticized for changing their hairstyles. Yeah. So they do have something in common. Maybe they can come together on this,
This is it. They can talk about hair products, gel.
Instead of a beer summit, there could be a hair summit where finally they bridge their differences. Finally, they can set aside what had been dividing them.
Well, I have a suggestion, Mr. Gotti. I mean, I see Hannah down at Bubbles down on Pennsylvania Avenue. She cuts my hair and she cuts Paul Ryan's hair.
There we go. If it's good enough for Paul Ryan.
Yeah, we should. I have to talk to Hannah. We bring Trey Gowdy over.
Sure.
But they'll just drag these hearings out until. I mean, do we really expect to find out anything new from this round of hearings? That's a tough question. Democrats are saying out of hand, no, absolutely not. And you're seeing some of these other committees really working to make their previous reports public to show, this has been investigated very thoroughly. 5 House committees, a Senate committee, the FBI, the State Department Review Board, all of these investigations have occurred and said there are no stand-down orders. There, have debunked some of the lingering Benghazi myths. But Trey Gowdy, as much as, of course, it's a political issue, he wants to, he's been given this job by John Boehner. He's not one of those guys who wants to live in the Congress forever. And, when you call him Mr. Chairman, he goes, no, my name is Trey. Thank you very much. So we'll see where it goes. There's sort of an indirect slapdown of Darrell Issa in this whole thing, too, isn't there?
I think so, because it really is his job to be looking into this. But I think Issa has lost credibility because he's been so, I think, aggressive in the way he's pursued the administration, and there's such a thing as overkill. You have to pick your battles, and for him, everything is a Watergate. And I think that I think it's like the boy who cried wolf. After a while, people tune you out, and so that it's a lesson. You have to be. If you're going to make a big fight about something, it better be worth it. It better be something that's serious. And I think people have already started to tune Issa out, and they have for a while.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Lauren and Alex, thank you for coming in today, and good luck filling up the next 7 weeks. I mean,
Well, just invite me back a few times, and then we'll kill an hour.
As long as you have something to talk about.
Yeah, you don't want me back here, because maybe if I go to Kentucky or something, you can have me in.
All right,
did all the good stuff today.
All right, and I'll be back and tell you what the president's up to today. Thank you so much. Thank you both.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, friends and neighbors, take a little time out now for just a word about Free Speech TV, how important it is, and how much we depend on your help. I hate to tell you this, but I've been around this radio and television business for a long time now, starting out with KABC TV in Los Angeles and KABC Talk Radio, moving on the radio front over to KFI Radio, and on TV over to KCOP Radio, and then bouncing back here to Washington, D.C., 6 years on CNN at Crossfire, and then a couple of years at MSNBC with Pat Buchanan on Buchanan and Press, and then Current TV, of course, covering and carrying our nationally syndicated radio show on a simulcast. But I got to tell you, with all of those different great organizations I've worked for, I have never felt that so totally free and so totally independent in terms of broadcasting the news of the day as I do here on Free Speech TV, because Free Speech TV, that's what it is. I mean, it's a progressive voice channel, 24/7, totally independent. As you know, no government funding and no corporate funding and no big donor pressure at all. Totally independent. And how do we do it? Well, that's thanks to you and to your support. We couldn't do without it. And that's why we turn to you once or twice a year to ask you to first of all, to thank you for being so generous, and then to ask you to help out again as much as you can. And there's some premiums that we can offer this time around, maybe to make it more attractive for you to dig in and help us out. If you can help us with just $10 a month, $120 a year, we'll send you a Bill Press mug and a pound of coffee. For $240, that mug, that coffee, and a French press. That's just $20 a month. For $30 a month, $360 a year, a mug, a coffee, the French press, and you'll participate in what we're calling Voices of the People. You and I will have a 5-minute phone conversation about whatever issue you want to talk about or issues you want to talk about, and we'll put all those together and we'll air them on our show as Voices of the People. You can be part of that. And if somehow you can make your way to Washington, D.C. and send $1,000 to Free Speech TV. Make your way to Washington. Carol and I will take you out to dinner and bring you into the studio the next morning to watch the show. However, whatever level you can help out, please give us a call at 877-378-8669 or go to the website freespeech.org. Help as much as you can, and thank you for being so generous and allowing us to do a great job with you every day. All right, President Obama, a pretty light day at the White House today. He's got the rest of the week. He'll be up in New York at the UN. He will have the daily briefing this morning with the Vice President. And then at 2:30 this afternoon, he's going to sign the America's Promise Summit Declaration in the Oval Office. And we have our briefing this afternoon with Josh Earnest at noon.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Here reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
that ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies in Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hundreds of thousands turn out in New York to demand action on climate change as the world leaders convene. Let's hope they get the message. Hello, everybody. Here we go on a Monday, September 22nd. So good to see you today, and thank you for joining us as the Bill Press Show booms out to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, all across this great land of ours on your local progressive talk radio station, and worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Join the conversation anytime these issues mean a lot to you. We want to know how they impact you and your community and your family. And you can do so by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. For the last 2-3 weeks now, it seems we've been consumed every day with more and more news and more bad news about the NFL. most out in front in her criticism of the NFL and its commissioner, Roger Goodell. Terry O'Neill, the president of the National Organization for Women, in studio with us today. Terry, good friend for a long time. It's good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
It's good to see you again, Bill.
Not that we have anything to talk about, right?
Right, yeah.
But I haven't seen you, any comments from you since Roger Goodell's news conference on Friday. So I'm glad that you're here today, because can't wait to hear about it. And you know our team, Peter Ogburn.
Hey.
Hey, good morning.
And Elisa Murphy. Alicia Cruz has the phones covered. She's there to take your calls again at 866-55-PRESS. And if we're looking good on that worldwide video cam, it's thanks to Cyprian Bolding, our videographer. We've got the lights on, the cameras on, helping us all look good this morning. Rush Limbaugh even got into the act. You probably heard his comments last week about the NFL. Rush, who I've heard this nonsense before, that sometimes woman says no, but she really means yes. I mean, what's wrong with this concept that no means no, right?
It's classic Rush Limbaugh. And there's a reason why he has consistently lost advertising. Every time he says something like that, the reaction is, people just really don't want to hear that anymore. He used to be somewhat amusing with his outrageous, provocative statements.
You're right.
That was decades ago. He's just really sort of horrible anymore.
Now, when he talked about feminazis, like back in the early 90s, maybe everybody thought, yeah, he's just a showman and everything. But it's not funny anymore.
It's also,
right?
I mean, it's also, not that it was ever okay, but it's also outdated. And
exactly.
It's just like you used to be able to say that.
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
you used to be able to.
But there may still be an opening for somebody who says things like that, as Conan O'Brien pointed out Friday night.
On his radio program, Rush Limbaugh said that sometimes when women say no, they mean yes. Yeah. As a result, Limbaugh has just been made the new commissioner of the NFL. That's a good job.
Yeah. Goodell found a soulmate, huh? So Terry O'Neill with us here for the first half hour, and then we'll be joined by Mitch Jones, Common Resources Program Director for Food and Water Watch, about the big climate change rally yesterday. We'll get right to it, but first, Peter always starts us off with the big headlines of the day.
All the big stories out there. We'll start with
news you can't live without.
You just mentioned climate change. We'll talk about climate because the 2022 World Cup is set to be held in the Middle East country of Qatar. FIFA Executive Committee member Theo Zwenziger said over the weekend, quote, "I personally think that in the end, the 2022 World Cup will not take place there because it's just too damn hot."
How?
There's been criticism because they're saying it's why would they have picked that place to begin with? Because it is a dry, hot area, and soccer games.
Yeah.
It's a lot of running for a long, extended period of time.
Right.
So there have already been a lot of concerns. But according to this one, again, FIFA Executive Committee member says that they may change their mind, which would be a big, big deal.
That would be. To lose the World Cup?
That would be huge.
Maybe they'll air condition the entire country. They
got the money to do it.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Exactly. When you think Denver, Colorado, Bill, what do you think?
Mile high.
Yeah.
Emphasis on high.
That's it. Marijuana. Like it or not,
right.
that's just what people associate it with these days. So one woman wanted to open up a stand in the Denver airport selling marijuana-themed souvenirs. Not actual pot, like they can get you high, but like socks with little marijuana leaves on them. Little snow globes that could also double as a bong. Well, the airport has said no. We're not going to allow any marijuana-themed souvenirs, tchotchkes, merchandise, anything like that to be sold at the Denver airport. They don't like that.
Making a big mistake.
A lot of money to be made there.
Losing a lot of money.
That's for sure.
I remember the last time we went through, last year, Carol and I changed planes in Rome, just a connecting flight in Rome.
Right.
And the souvenir shops in the Rome airport were all papal memorabilia,
of course.
Posters of Francis and books about Francis and medals of Francis. It was all Pope stuff.
Wow.
That far from the Vatican. Yeah, they know.
Yeah. Well, Denver's lovely. There are a lot of great outdoor things to do. There are a lot of great restaurants.
Yeah.
You can also get high there.
Right, yeah.
It's just part of the fabric. just how it goes. The New York Times this morning unveiled their first draft, is what they're calling it. It's a morning newsletter that they put out. First draft is written by Carl Hulse, and he drops a bombshell in the first edition. He says that, you remember Kirsten Gillibrand, senator, who said that there was a senator who said, don't lose too much weight. I like my girls chubby.
Yeah.
We now know who said that.
Kirsten Gillibrand, the senator, said she was not going to.
She did not reveal it, but the New York Times is reporting that it was the late Daniel Inouye from Hawaii. Who's yes, indeed.
Oh,
indeed.
Another age. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Actually,
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
But
it chagrins me that was a Democrat who said it.
In all fairness, there were several instances that she talked about, so I don't think all of them were Daniel Inouye, but that one particular was from him.
But Terry, thank you, Peter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you were not surprised to read those comments or to hear about those comments, right? I mean, it's
absolutely not. It's part of the fabric of how it is for women, especially women who go into a workplace that is predominantly male. It's just going to happen. And I have to tell you, every woman that I know that's in that situation picks her battles carefully. You really just have to judge. Is this someone who's being hostile, or is this someone who's making an unbelievably clumsy attempt to have conversation or be, supportive even? It's truly amazing how offensive comments are not intended to be offensive, but really are. And you just have to pick your battles every day. I have to tell you, it's not just around gender. It's around race. Women of color who are friends of mine report both race and gender type comments, and we used to call them the microaggressions of everyday life.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Right. Which really speaks to the need for education, training, right?
Yes, and bystander assistance. When you're a bystander and you see that happen, I think it's much easier for the bystander to say to someone, that's really not an okay comment. You made me uncomfortable making that comment, rather than the person who's the recipient of it. I think those of us who are standing around really have a role to play.
That's a very good point. I hadn't thought about that. Speak up and say, hey, that wasn't so cool. Right?
Yeah, the awareness of it, the letting somebody know.
Exactly.
I mean,
sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah.
Right.
Look, there are people who are brought up to think a certain way, and they've never been told that it's wrong.
All right, let's get to Roger Goodell. I mean, because with all the news, first of all, you apologizes once, so you got the Ray Rice thing wrong. But since then, there's more about Ray Rice. A second video comes out, and Adrian Peterson. It goes on and on. The new guy from the Carolinas, I keep forgetting his name, and we haven't heard from Roger Goodell, right? And all this time, you've been calling for his resignation. Good for you. And then finally, he schedules his news conference for Friday. Peter and I both watched it. We're thinking, boy, this is it. Right now, we're going to finally hear this guy say what he's going to do, specifically what he's going to do to address this problem, and he's going to accept full responsibility for it. Terry, I don't think he said a thing. Did you hear anything new?
No. Honestly, at the end of the press conference, my one thought was, well, for all of us, that's an hour of our lives we'll never get back. It was just, it was useless. He was asked specific questions. He had no specific answers to those questions. He danced around, backing and filling, dodging and weaving, and just simply not saying anything of substance. So why would he take an hour of people's time to deliver basically I said I'm sorry, now trust me?
Yeah, here's as close as he came, right, to any... he said sorry, I don't know how many times, but here's as close as he came to a blanket apology.
I made a mistake. I'm not satisfied with the process that we went through. I'm not satisfied with the conclusions.
Well, he said that before. I mean, duh, right? There was no new ground. Right?
Well, that's right. And he never says what the mistake was.
Good point.
What mistake did you make? Well, I made a mistake because I didn't have enough policies, or because I made the wrong call, or whatever. I mean, really, the entire time...
So why did he have this news conference?
That is a great question. I don't know. I think maybe he is in some kind of a bubble, and clearly his 32 owners don't have a clue. And I just wonder if he's not in some kind of a bubble where he truly does not understand the trouble that he has put the NFL in. He doesn't understand that the NFL is in crisis right now because of his leadership.
Isn't that amazing that days later, nobody really
Weeks
knows.
later.
Days after his press conference,
sorry.
nobody really knows why he had that press conference. What?
It
why?
led to nothing.
Something.
Well, I think that he really thought that his announcement that he's going to be guided by experts, that he's going to throw some money at the National Domestic Violence Hotline and the National Sexual Assault Resource Center, and he's going to provide some money. I would love to know the details of that. Is it a fixed contract? Is it over 10 years? Is it just over the next 6 months until all of this goes away and makes Roger Goodell's life easier? What really is the nature of that donation? I think he believed that announcement was going to take the pressure off him, but it's just
and
one.
Get it off the front page.
Get it off the front page. His entire aim is to get this off the front page. It is not his aim to make the kinds of changes in the NFL that really need to be made.
And he said they're going to have some standards. They should have some standards. They should have had standards for dealing with this problem a long time ago.
Well, yeah, and this so-called investigation that he appointed Robert Mueller to do, it's not an independent investigation.
No.
He was called out on that at the press conference, and his only response was, Mr. Mueller's a man of integrity. Period, the end. He ignored the fact that there's huge conflict of interest there. He also ignored the fact that the scope of Mr. Mueller's investigation is only about who knew what and when did they know it around one specific incident of domestic violence. What I would like to know is on kind of two fronts. Number one, how many women have gone to the HR department at the NFL and sought help for domestic violence or sexual assault or dating violence? How many? What were the services they requested? Did they receive those services? What kinds of services did they receive that perhaps they didn't request? And what tracking mechanisms has the NFL used, if any, to ensure the continued physical safety of victims of domestic violence within their community and the economic resources of victims? I hear a lot about the NFL owners trying to parse out the level of culpability of an abuser. Fine, and absolutely abusers need to be held accountable for their actions. But I don't hear within the NFL any concern for the victims. So those questions have never been asked, and I think an investigator would need to go in and find out why were those questions not being asked.
Now, you still hear some people say, look, what Ray Rice did was wrong, what Ray McDonald did was wrong, on down the line. But that's not the NFL's job. There's got to be a separation between the legal process and football. And the NFL's only responsible. Their job is only... And we had one of our callers this morning, a woman, by the way, said I was dead wrong. What I was saying, she said, that's not the NFL's job. What's your response to that?
I think it's a great question. And actually, the anti-violence against women community, we have done a very good job of developing policies when an employer, when a worker is a victim of domestic violence or sexual assault or stalking, that sort of thing. So we have a really good idea. Let her keep her job, give her some flexibility so she can get the kids in a new school, give her common sense safety precautions in the workplace to protect her from harassment by her abuser and so forth. What we really haven't focused on, frankly, Bill, is what is the obligation when your employee is an abuser?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you should do? And I think that the answer to that has to be guided by two key facts. These are facts that are just incontrovertible. Number one, unemployment is a significant risk factor for domestic violence homicide. So firing an abuser is not necessarily the right thing to do if it will result in greater danger.
Greater danger to the victim.
For the victim. The second fact is that economic resources are the one key factor in a victim's ability to get herself and her family to safety. Sometimes her parents are threatened, the pets, the kids. She's got to get herself and her entire family to safety and be able to move forward with her life. That requires resources. So again, firing the abuser might end up harming the victim. So it seems to me that if we're going to figure out what employers of abusers need to do, the first rule is do no harm. And in fact, in the NFL, because the NFL actually controls the behavior of NFL wives and partners so closely, they're a slightly unusual type of employer. The military is that way. You've got there are other sectors where the spouses are expected to be unpaid participants in the welfare of the enterprise. And I think the NFL therefore has a heightened obligation to provide economic assistance to the victims and physical safety precautions for the victims.
But these players do sign a code of conduct as part of their contract, right?
Yes. And
so if they violate that,
then
they can be suspended, or their football career, right, can be impacted by their behavior independent of what the legal system does.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. Every employer has the right to protect its brand. And clearly a football player committing acts of violence is damaging the brand. So you do, obviously there's accountability and can be accountability, but it has to be done with an understanding of not allowing any further danger to the victim.
Oh, God, if only Roger Goodell understood these issues. Terry O'Neill is here with us from the National Organization for Women, NOWnow.org. We'll be right back. Get a call in if you got time, 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look, your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
is the Bill Press Show.
And on this Monday, September 22nd, Terry O'Neill, president of the National Organization for Women, NOW.org, here with us in studio. So the big final question for me, Terry, is why should the NFL be a tax-exempt organization?
Great question. It should not be tax-exempt. These owners are billionaires. They are making money hand over fist in the NFL. That is why Roger Goodell thinks his job is so secure, is because of all the billions he's brought in to the organization. And a lot of that, it has to do with tax exemption. I mean, that's a huge support for the profitability of that enterprise. No, there's no way they should be tax-exempt.
And he makes $45 million a year.
$45 million a year. You would think that for that he could buy at least one Clue.
And you could think he could pay his share of taxes. They all could pay their fair share of taxes.
Right.
The idea that these billionaires, these games, and all the money they make, it's just crazy. Terry, you've been out in the lead on this issue. Proud of you, and thank you for coming in today and for what you're doing.
Thank you, Bill.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then it's always in the same place, and then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, 33 minutes after the hour, Monday, September 22nd. It's The Bill Press Show. We are live in our nation's capital and our studio right here on Capitol Hill. Brought to you today by the American Association of Machinists. Good men and women of the Machinists Union under President Tom Buffenbarger, sharpening America's edge on the global economy, you bet. And for more information on their good work, go to their website, goiam.org. How could you miss it? The big news yesterday out of New York City, Midtown Manhattan shut down for hours by the huge big march for climate change. Estimated 310,000 people participating. We haven't seen that kind of people power, I don't know, since the days maybe of the Vietnam protests against the Vietnam War. Mitch Jones is the Common Resources Program Director for one of the groups that organized yesterday's big march, Food and Water Watch, and he joins us in studio this morning. Hey, Mitch, nice to see you.
Hey, Bill, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so were you surprised as many people turned out?
I have to say I was a little surprised, yeah. I mean, I knew it was going to be big. I knew it was going to be a major event, but 310,000 people is just an amazing number. And, you know, I've actually heard from some folks from Food and Water Watch that were up there that they think that's a conservative count. They think there were possibly 350,000 or more. It's just a really incredible turnout.
So the area was from Columbus Circle,
Yep.
right where CNN, Time Warner, all the way down Broadway, and then they went across, I think, to I forget, snaking around Midtown Manhattan. But it was like a 2-mile course. And at one point, they said everything just sort of stopped.
Right.
Because there were too many people in that space, and there was still 100,000 maybe who hadn't even started yet. 2 hours later, people hadn't even started to march yet.
Right, yeah. The fracking, the anti-fracking contingent that Food and Water Watch was part of actually had to wait about 3 hours after the front line started moving before they actually started to move. They were up... the road there. Yeah, they must have been. I'm not entirely sure, but
90s,
the 80s or 90s. And it took 3 hours at least before they were able to start moving.
Whoa. Yeah. What was the message of the march? I mean, was there one central message?
Well, there wasn't one central message other than we need, to take drastic action now to stop climate change. Every day, it seems, a new report comes out that is telling us just how drastic the problem has become and that we really need to take action. And so ahead of the UN summit tomorrow in New York on climate change, Bill McKibben from 350.org had decided that it would be a great idea to show some people power on the streets of New York. And then actually it evolved to being around the world. Food and Water Watch and a variety of other organizations, Americans Against Fracking and others, got involved organizing for the event.
I know, because there were protests all around the country. San Francisco, Los Angeles, among other cities.
Right.
I don't know if there's anything here in Washington, Peter. Was there?
I didn't see much about it here in Washington.
Did you?
I didn't either, no.
Yeah.
No. I think most of the people from around here went up.
Worldwide.
There were worldwide.
Movement, yeah.
Right. And so the general call was just for climate action. We need action now of a lot of different threads in that call.
Sure.
But that was the real wake-up was, look, people are upset, people are agitated. We need to build the political will to get something done. And with all of the world's leaders coming into New York City this week, it was the place to do it.
Right. It is, I'm not sure whether, historically you'd have to go back to Vietnam or not, but we haven't seen that kind of grassroots support for any cause or people power behind any cause that I can remember for a long time.
No, it's just,
Help me
I
out
think
here.
I can't think of anything either. I wasn't around for the Vietnam protests, but
stop making me feel old.
Maybe the first Earth Day, but it's really been, I think, since that era that that sort of, for this sort of a movement, that you see those sorts of numbers.
I mean, I never remember hearing a crowd like that.
Yeah, 310,000 is just an incredible number.
And yet, there wasn't a ton of coverage for it.
No.
Like, it just blows my mind.
I was going to ask you about the media sort of downplayed it. I mean, it was on the evening news last night.
Right.
Didn't lead it.
Right. I was looking at the Washington Post. I don't believe it made it on the front page there. You've got the New York Times in front of you.
Yes.
It's there.
The picture's there.
It's
I wasn't
there.
sure what the pictures were of, but yeah.
I think it got coverage in England, but yeah, there was a real kind of a disappointment in terms of that sort of coverage domestically. This was, clearly one of the largest domestic political rallies / protests in, decades, if not a generation, and that the media chose to ignore it. I would like to say is surprising, but the fact of the matter is the mainstream media has been ignoring climate change for years. They virtually ignored it during the presidential election 2 years ago, hasn't come up really at all in the midterm election this year. And, the media is just whistling past the graveyard here. And 310,000 people showed up in New York yesterday to say, we can't whistle past that graveyard anymore.
Why is it that there is no... Is it because so many people still view it as a controversial topic, or is it just not... Does it not sell in the media?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it must be that it doesn't sell in the media, or that the corporate sponsors of mainstream media don't want it reported. I'm not entirely sure what that reason is. You might know better than I do, since you guys work in the media. But
we talk about it,
right?
I mean,
I know you do. But it's just incredible to me that you just can't break through with this really vitally important issue for everyone. It doesn't just affect one segment of the population, doesn't just affect one country, it affects everybody. And that we can't get the media really fired up to talk about it, to me, is really shocking.
Well, one is, I hadn't made this connection until we just listened to you talk about it, but I watched the evening news last night, forget which network, but they did cover the march. Maybe halfway through the program, and it was like a minute coverage about how big the crowd was and all the people turned out. They led the news with the reports of the wildfires in the West, caused particularly by drought conditions in California.
Right.
And they coupled that with Arizona, meanwhile, experiencing record flooding because of weird weather conditions. Both of those evidences of climate change, but they never made the connection between, they never recognized that both problems were due to climate change, and never made the connection between that and the march in New York.
No, it would have been the perfect lead-in.
Exactly.
Here's all this drastic, strange weather, and
here's what these guys are protesting and talking about and saying we have to do something about. Yeah. They never made it. Yeah.
It's crazy. It's absolutely insane, and it's tragic even, really, because again, this is something we need to take action on now. We can't really wait anymore. A report came out just last week I saw that said we have roughly 15 years in which to act. 15 years. The UN says 30. A new report says 15. Right. We have to start acting now.
All right. So we have this summit tomorrow, right? Yeah. Now, this is not just the UN meeting on all of its general business. This is a summit specifically on climate change, correct? What should we do? I mean, that's the question.
I mean, that is the question. What should we do?
Right. And so what I've read is don't expect anything to happen because, as always, the wealthiest, biggest nations are going to talk about how serious it is and have we do something and do nothing. Meanwhile, the poorer nations, which are the first ones to be flooded out and destroyed by the evidences of climate change, the impacts of climate change, don't have the resources to do anything themselves. And so we're going to just go down the road again.
Yeah, I think basically tomorrow's going to be a talk shop. It's going to be a chance for world leaders to get up and get some good clips that, in their countries might show up on in the media, but probably won't show up here, talking about why climate change is important. There is going to be a big meeting in Paris next year that's supposed to lead towards a new global agreement on climate change after the failure of the Copenhagen meeting several years ago. But, the U.S. has already been kind of downplaying that, saying, well, it can't be a treaty because we couldn't get a treaty through the Senate, so we just need some sort of politically binding but not legally binding agreement. And so they're already walking back from being able to do anything that's going to ultimately be meaningful. And a lot of the poorer developing countries have already said, wait a minute, if it's not going to be binding on you guys, we're going to suffer.
Sure.
And I think that's why we saw the turnout that we saw yesterday, is because people are tired of this. People are tired of the rhetoric not being followed up by real, legitimate action to actually reduce the amount of greenhouse gas.
So what's it going to take? We're going to have to lose Miami first, or Norfolk, or I don't know, Jersey City.
I certainly hope not. I certainly hope not. I think that what it's going to take is, those people that were in New York yesterday being, fired up by their experience and going back home and talking to their friends and their neighbors and even the people who aren't their friends and neighbors and getting them fired up. We need to build on the ground in this country the political will to make our politicians take action, because right now that political will doesn't exist. And so we need to get out into our communities, talk to our friends and neighbors, talk to, anybody we can, and organize to build that political power so that we can give the will to our elected officials to actually take real action to reduce greenhouse gases.
I hope you're right. I'm becoming more of a skeptic, not about climate change, about the counting on this Congress or political leaders anywhere to do anything. I think you're going to lose Bangladesh first or something, and maybe that even won't work. Mitch, I hate to be such a cynic. Mitch Jones is here from Food and Water Watch. We're talking about climate change. People turned out yesterday. Will politicians, will world leaders respond? 866-55-PRESS. Is this important to you? What should we do? What are the steps we should take? Give us a call when we come back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans, because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $20,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan. And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, here 12 minutes before the top of the hour, Mitch Jones is with us from Food and Water Watch, talking about the big climate change rally yesterday in New York and the big summit tomorrow with world leaders. Before we move along, Mitch, Peter had a little breaking news about one reporter who has no longer on the job up in Alaska.
This audio is just too good to not play. So Charlo Green was a reporter for KTVA in Alaska. That was her day job. She also was the owner of the Alaska Cannabis Club. So she believed very strongly in medicinal marijuana. She was running this club,
it's legal,
getting it to people who needed it. And so stories began to come out that she was doing this. So she addressed it on air in a story, and this is what it sounded like.
Now, everything you heard is why I, the actual owner of the Alaska Cannabis Club, will be dedicating all of my energy toward fighting for freedom and fairness, which begins with legalizing marijuana here in Alaska. And as for this job, well, not that I have a choice, but I quit.
She
Take this
off.
job and shove
All right,
it.
we apologize for that.
The classic.
The long pause.
It's a little awkward.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right. Well, she made the right
Good
choice.
luck to Charlo Green in getting her new business up and running.
I'm pretty sure there's an initiative on the ballot in November in Alaska to legalize. I think they're one of the next states that are up. So she could be doing just fine.
She may be.
Between now and November. Mitch, we had a lot of people want to questions for you about what's going on with climate change. I do want to ask you about fracking.
Yeah.
Because, many areas where we have local affiliates, every time I move around the country, people want to talk about fracking. It's a big problem, particularly on the East Coast, in the Midwest, in the West.
Yes, all over.
All over, right.
Yeah.
Is it, in terms of climate change, is it a real threat?
Yes, it is.
Because?
Because of the leakage of methane in the system, and because of the additional amounts of leakage that happen when you frack a well as opposed to just a regular old natural gas well. So, people have always said, oh, natural gas is a bridge fuel. We're going to use it to get to the renewables. But that was based on looking at when you burn natural gas compared to when you burn coal.
Mm-hmm.
Coal is dirtier when you burn it. But if you look at the whole life cycle, from when you frack the well to when you burn the gas, it turns out, the latest science is showing us, that in point of fact, fracked gas is as bad and probably worse in terms of greenhouse gas emissions than coal, and that's because of how powerful of a greenhouse gas methane is.
Wow. No, nobody's talking about that. Out in Madison, Wisconsin, 92.1 The Mic. Hello, Melanie.
Okay, to stop climate change, people should stop relying on the government. They should address it themselves by stop using cars and stop eating meat, which are huge contributors to climate change. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Melanie, for that word. By the way, from Wisconsin, which has a lot of cows.
That's right.
And makes a lot of cheese, at least, the state, and I'm sure Madison does. But what about that? I mean, more and more people see that you can't depend on the federal government to do anything.
You can't, but again, I'm not asking us to depend on the federal government as it is. I'm saying what we need to do is go out and organize to force the government to do something. If people start losing elections because they're not taking action on climate change, then they're going to act. We don't have the millions of dollars that the Koch brothers have to throw at elections. But what we do have is people power, as was demonstrated yesterday in New York.
Yeah.
You know, among those 310,000 people, by the way, there were thousands of anti-fracking protesters because New York is just, you know, Governor Cuomo the other day kind of admitted that it's the, you know, that the anti-fracking movement is kind of the most pervasive social movement that he sees in New York.
Well, they have driven him crazy.
Yes, you know, and I'm proud to say Food and Water Watch is at the forefront of that, along with a lot of our local allies, Frack Action and New Yorkers Against Fracking, you know, and we're driving them nuts, as we should be. And, you know, we need to do that across the country. We need to replicate it. I'm not saying let's hope and pray that Congress does something. No, I'm saying let's make Congress do something by building the power that, you know, and in the meantime, sure, we should be taking, you know, personal actions.
Right.
But relying on the goodwill of individuals to act isn't going to get us where we need to go. We should be doing it, certainly, but we also need to be making politicians do what they should be doing.
Is Tom Steyer going to make a difference? Has he already made a difference?
I think it's too early to tell. We'll see. We'll see.
He doesn't have the resources the Koch brothers have.
No, he doesn't.
Don't expect that. But, I mean, he's one man who's put his money where his mouth is in terms of climate change.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens. I mean, you know, Michael Bloomberg tried to do that on gun control, and it didn't really work out that well. But we'll see what happens. Again, I don't think we need to rely on money. I think we can't rely on money. We have to rely on democracy. We have to rely on actual getting people out to vote, which I know is an antiquated and quaint idea these days.
But I still believe in it.
Excellent.
And it can be done. It can be done better now than ever.
And one way you can sign up and find out what you can do is to go to the website Food and Water Watch, foodandwaterwatch.org.
That's right.
Mitch, thanks for all your leadership out there, fighting a good fight for us. All right. Thanks for coming in today, too. I'll be back, wrap things up with a parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819 Dartmouth College versus Woodward Supreme Court case turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886 Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people Any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, as most of you know, I go to the White House almost every day. I go through security at the northwest gate of the White House. I walk from there directly into the briefing room in the West Wing. And I can tell you this. I know for sure that if I were ever to wander off course, if I were to veer to the left, for example, and head for the front door of the White House instead of the briefing room, I wouldn't get halfway there before I'd be stopped, tackled, or shot by a Secret Service agent, and they know me because I'm there every day. It's all the more unbelievable then, and inexplicable and unacceptable that a complete stranger could scale the White House White House fence last Friday, sprint 100 yards across the north lawn, and actually walk into the front door of the White House before he was captured by the Secret Service. This was a major breach of security for which there is no excuse. Look, I'm friends with many Secret Service agents. They're a great, brave, dedicated group of public servants, but this time, somebody on the Secret Service was asleep at the switch, and somebody's head ought to roll. Why didn't they at least lock the front door? All right, folks, have a good one. We'll look for you back here
is the Bill Press Show.